All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and where you're joining us from, and please keep yourself muted. My name is Megan. If you haven't met me, I am the China's Not Our Enemy campaign coordinator, and I'm very excited to be here tonight introducing you to four really incredible activists that are, spread out around the country that recently got back from China from a really exciting trip to China. And so today we're going to hear from them about their trip and their experiences on the trip. And yeah, so I won't keep my intro too long because I know they have a really wonderful presentation for us. But if you have any questions, you can just drop them in the chat and we'll get to as many as we can at the end if there's time left. So with that, I would like to introduce you to the wonderful Jessica Ryan to start us off.
Well, thank you so much, wonderful Megan, and thank you to CODEPINK for creating these spaces for our learning and sharing and spreading peace together. And been awesome organizing with all of you. And also thank you to my travel mates, my comrades who we got to travel with, who are here tonight with us to share. It was phenomenal to be able to go with people who have been fighting for socialism for a very long time, many, many years, and to be in a place together where it's happening and to be in that state of awe together was really special. So I'm excited to regather with everyone tonight. Not everyone, we're missing a couple of us that were on the trip as well, but Dee and Anlin, and I'll pass it off to Sid.
Hi, I'm Sid Locke, partner of Jessica, and I was so thrilled to go to China and travel all around China. And just I was in awe of the infrastructure, of the poverty alleviation, of the ecological advancements that they've been making, and the dancing in the squares in different cities. And I participated. I can really fake dancing well, so I was on it. So and I'm a DSA member and involved with a little bit with Code Pink too. So pass it on to Dee.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Dee Knight. I share membership in DSA International Committee's China Working Group with Jessica, Sid, and our co-chair, Anlin, who will speak next. I'm the author of Befriending China, which, as Megan said, and I'm very glad to have the opportunity to share it with you. I also was a co-author with Megan of the recently released China Changes Everything anthology. And so it's great to be with Megan after that. I helped organize this trip through Friends of Socialist China, but it was really a special trip for leaders of DSA's China Working Group. And with that, I'll pass it along to the leader of that group, Anlin Wang.
Hey everybody, good to see everyone, friends and comrades. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Yeah, my name is Anlin. I'm based here in Philly, and I'm also a member of the Democratic Socialist of America, where I've been active in the Philly chapter, and also the International Committee, where I currently serve as a co-chair, but also help lead the China Working Group as well. And so thank you to Jessica for helping put this together. And thank you for Megan and the Code Pink comrades for organizing these webinars and these important discussion spaces. I've been a DSA member since 2017, but I've been attending these meetings since 2023 now. And so it's been wonderful to see the growth of this group and looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Take it away, Jessica.
All right, well, before I share some slides, we took obviously so many pictures. We wanted thousands of pictures we probably have, but we pulled together a few, and we wanted to focus on something because there's so much in China. There's so much to learn and experience. We have to go back. You all have to go there at least once if you haven't been. But we wanted to focus on poverty alleviation and the work that they've been doing on that. And on a personal note, it meant a lot to me to see how people are really valued there. As somebody who I carried a lot of shame for growing up being poor, my school and stuff, and just yeah, feeling that dignity that they bring to the people, and that they help lift them up from the bottom and work with them directly was very moving to me many times. I was moved to tears. So this meant a lot to be able to have the space tonight to share some of our pictures and experiences together. So we'll go in. I'm going to share the screen here, and let me know if I'm speaking too quietly. I'm a soft speaker, so you can always ask me to speak up. All right, is that showing up for everybody on your end? Okay.
If it can be bigger, let's see if it can be bigger. Yeah,
I think
fit to
that is
what?
the full screen.
There we go.
All right.
Oh, except for the problem is that we don't see it so well.
Do you not?
I can
Are
see
you
it well. It's clear. I think it's a full screen for me.
Okay, it's just my screen that's the problem. Okay.
So yeah, this was a photo of hills and hills full of solar panels, and I wanted to just hand it right off to Anlin, talking about some of the climate work that we got to see when we were there. This was in Guizhou, and so yeah, take it away, Anlin.
Sure, sure. And so one of the things that the China Working Group and the DSA has been trying to think about for years, and since 2021 really, has been about how to advance the possibility of U.S.-China climate cooperation. So DSA, just for a little bit of background here, it's a Big Ten organization. People come into this organization with different sorts of perspectives. But in 2021, the national organization at the highest decision-making body level, that's the National Convention, ratified a national platform that did include two planks about China, and this passed overwhelmingly. One of which is one is to call for an end to U.S. escalation and warmongering, and the other is to call for cooperation of issues of global importance, especially climate change. And so one of the things that we wanted to do on this trip was just to try and, as the title suggests, bear witness to some of the examples of climate progress, things that we can potentially advocate for in the US, or even better, potentially advocate for ways of collaborating between the US and China. And that feels especially important to us right now, given this current administration trying to roll back climate progress altogether. We want to get us to a place get the American people to a place where there's more understanding about the possibilities of climate cooperation. And so necessarily that means improving an understanding and literacy of the climate change progress that's going on in China. And here on the slide shows one of the more dramatic in-your-face examples of that progress. This picture here comes from the Guizhou province. And so that's where we went around that province for a whole week last August and September. And just for some context about Guizhou, and we'll talk more about this later too, this is historically one of China's poorest provinces. It's landlocked, but almost the entirety of it is covered with mountains and hills. And so by extension, even very little room for stuff like agriculture, and stuff like infrastructure is even harder. So seeing this dramatic sort of scene, this is one picture, but this is multiplied over the scale of Guizhou by the scale of like tens of hundreds of thousands. If we had a drone, which we didn't, if we had just raised it up a couple hundred feet, we would have been able to see miles of these solar panels. And if you look online, you can see some of these as well. These are mountains that are covered in solar panels. And behind them are also, I think it's a little bit less visible in this picture, we have to zoom in a little bit, are windmills as well. doing their best to create wind farms on top of these mountains as well. These in turn help provide power to a region that was that historically had a difficult time with obtaining power, especially green power. This is a country that has relied on coal for power generation for many years. And in order to switch from coal to green energy, this is the scale of production that's been rolled out. And so seeing this seeing this was just well awe-inspiring just right from the get-go. I mean, the first time we saw it, it was just like we were just rounding a bend, and so we just saw like one mountain covered, and it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But then we round the bend, like the next bend, and all of a sudden you see miles and miles of it. This is only one example. We'll talk about some more as well, but this is the sort of thing that we think is important for Americans, and especially those of us concerned about social change. I imagine if you're on this call, you probably are. That should be looking forward to and helping bring back to our American comrades here in the U.S. This sort of thing, if Guizhou can do it, there's no reason why the richest country in the history of the planet can't do it.
Thanks.
Right on.
Next slide.
So what are some other socialism with Chinese characteristics that we saw in China? Some of the more lighthearted stuff of everywhere we went, kids always wanting to take pictures, really a lot of people wanting to run up and give you a heart sign or a peace sign. And the literacy, it's been, they've talked about like their literacy program to be one of the most amazing in the world, the most incredible of how they raised everyone out of being, raising up the literacy rate. And then also like, it's not a monoculture. There are, what we hear about socialist cultures or communist, countries, it's so not true. Like this woman here with her decked out scooter at the market, man eating ice cream that was homemade by someone selling the ice cream in the market. So just wanted to share some of those more fun pictures. And then I'm gonna pass it back to Anlin because this is a photograph of a Miao village and then some of the Miao cultures and how they've been protected and celebrated. And then, yeah, if Anlin, you want to share about the extra piece you learned when we were there by talking to somebody.
Sure, sure. The Miao people are one of the 56 recognized ethnic minority groups in China. And one of the things that was very apparent going through this area, so Guizhou is one of the provinces with the highest proportions of ethnic minorities living in it, and the Miao people are one of the biggest are the biggest of those of the ethnic minority groups in Guizhou. Historically, also had a lower income relative to the faster developing people in the faster developing provinces on the East Coast. But in recent years, the Miao people have been very active in the poverty alleviation campaign. And so this village here that's on this screen here is now a major tourist destination for Chinese people. And this village here, it's called basically translates to the 1,000 household village. Because what it sounds like, there's around 1,000 households here. But this village is now a place for Miao tourism and Miao cultural exploration. And so it gets a lot of tourists these days. And as a result, the incomes have risen sharply too. But only actually in the past few years. What the guides and the people that we talked to told us was that this particular village only reached a state where they would call themselves like some kind of prosperous around 2020. And the reason we have this picture that's a little zoomed in and not like showing the full thing is because we want to not sure how easily we can highlight this here, but if you sort of look towards the back of the picture on the right there, you might see a small little flat thing that looks like water or like a football pitch, something like that, soccer pitch, slightly green. And so basically when I saw that in the distance, what I thought was originally I thought that was some sort of sports field or something like that. So we asked about it. And this I think also it ended up being a lesson in the Chinese thought process, the Chinese governance process, and how they think about infrastructure and climate change and just trying to use infrastructure to benefit the people. It turns out that is not a soccer pitch. That is a water reservoir. And they said it's to prevent flooding. And so, we asked, well, did you guys get a lot of floods? And they said, no, we've actually never flooded before. But we're just observing the trends of climate change. And so we want to build this reservoir to prevent any sort of future flooding. And so as they said, they only got moderately prosperous somewhere around 2020. But that only came online in 2023 or 2024. And so that, I think, demonstrates the degree to which infrastructure is taken seriously and also thought of from a proactive standpoint, a preventative standpoint. That contrasts with my experience living in Philadelphia, where the city has a couple hundred bridges. A majority of them, or around a little over 100 of them, are rated by the National Professional Organization for Bridge Engineers as being structurally deficient. In my home state of Pennsylvania, just in Pittsburgh a few years ago, there was a series of bridge collapses that occurred during the day. And just a few years ago, just on 2 years ago in Philadelphia, the main highway connecting Philadelphia to New York and Washington, D.C. also collapsed. And so, but meanwhile, when just a few years ago we passed what was called then the biggest infrastructure investment in U.S. history under Joe Biden, almost none of that money has gone actually to infrastructure upkeep. And so I thought this, hearing that story just really sort of resonated with me about the degree to which the U.S. has to learn from some of these practices. And there's no reason as to why, if a Miao village of 1,000 people, 1,000 households, can set up this sort of preventative infrastructure forward looking for climate, well, then we here in Philadelphia, in 150 years or so, the sea levels are going to rise to the point where that's going to impact port operations here. And yet I hear sort of no discussion about how the city and the state is planning for that. And so just another example of climate governance that we can learn from.
Right. We also saw some of the highest bridges in the world, and tunnel after tunnel after tunnel. And this was also more recent. So you could just imagine, like 10, 20 years ago, how long it would take people to get to a hospital or to a job or school. And now here we are with these incredible, very different than bridges anywhere in the United States, especially towns that have been left behind and just kind of forgotten. So I don't know if there was something else you wanted to add to the specific bridges and stuff.
I would like.
I
Go
was
ahead.
if you can hear me, I was just gonna. I love that your description of the parallel or lack of parallel with the Philadelphia bridges. So thank you for that, because I just got back from China. Well, it's been a few months now, but my son and I took the train from Shanghai to Beijing, just as an example. It had been a while since I lived there. I lived there years ago. And it was nice. I mean, it was fast. I mean, I remember back in the day taking a sleeper car from, Nanjing or Shanghai to Beijing. And so I was very pleased. But where the contrast got very, very palpable for me as I came back here to the Seattle area, and wound up taking the Amtrak from Seattle to Bellingham to pick up my car and bring it back. And I was on the Amtrak train here after being in China, and I was like, this is like a third, a developing country, because the Amtrak, first of all, it was empty and too expensive. So we haven't figured out how to get people on those transportation devices, one thing. But the tracks were moving up and down and jogging around. I could barely get my way to the bathroom. I was like, we've swapped positions infrastructurally because China, in some ways, a lot of countries have gotten ahead of these big capital projects, and it takes foresight and capital. But anyway, no, great. I loved your example. Thank you.
I would like to add a little bit about this bridge and the several dozen others in this southwest China province of Guizhou. They literally, 50 of the recently made bridges in southwest China, specifically Guizhou, are at the top of the list of the highest bridges in the world. On our tour, we had the opportunity to take an elevator up to the bridge level of this bridge. I didn't go. I'm acrophobic. I couldn't do it. But I spent the time in a bridge museum and found a number of important things, including that the construction of these bridges, which took place over the course of just over 1 decade between 2010 and 2020, were very much a part of the Targeted Poverty Alleviation Program. What part were they? It was really two parts. One was a zillion jobs were created in building these bridges. But perhaps more important, what they did is break the isolation of this mountainous province so that internal as well as external trade was facilitated. And we'll be able to see a bit more of that. But these bridges are both an architectural marvel and a significant piece of the puzzle of how China has been able to overcome deep poverty.
We also got to see a state-of-the-art hospital, or a new wing added to a hospital with a traditional Chinese medicine wing, and we got to receive some traditional Chinese medicine while we were there as well. And yeah, that was a great experience. Got to see all the herbs that they had and the lab where they mix them up, and just really amazing how their healthcare system actually is almost universal healthcare. It's not free healthcare for all, but it provides everyone is getting healthcare. And they're constantly improving health outcomes, and they're spending less than 3% of what we spend here per capita with these incredible hospitals. They take it really seriously. They take responsibility for the people's health. We all saw what happened during COVID and how they protected the people with the way they worked with that, and how many hospitals popped up within, like, I don't know, a 2-day period or something. I can't remember. It was mind blowing. But yeah, should I just move on to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So yeah, Dee was going to talk about the changes in education and some of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to know that we were actually invited as a group to visit a school that was dedicated to the training and preparation of party workers and party secretaries who went to the extremely poor villages in the interior of Guizhou. And in this pair of photos was part of the exhibit we saw at that school. It's here you have a before and after. On the left, you can see a quick snapshot of what the challenge of getting an education was for literally tens of thousands of kids in Guizhou who had to walk for half a day over mountain paths to get to school. They had to pack lunch for a full week, and their schools were sleepover schools. Um, we One of our guides was just such a kid. Now he has a master's degree and is part of the uh, the the social education infrastructure. On the right, you see kids that are able to get to school in about a half hour, go home every day. They have lunch at school. And what the result has been is a dramatic increase in literacy for the kids living in the countryside. It has gone up from under 20% to over 90%. I think it's actually over 95%. And the impact on the both the society and the villages where these kids live is especially notable. I'd like to move to the next slide on the contrast in housing. Yeah, here we have uh, a look at a couple of model houses from not that long ago, about a decade and a half, well, probably 2 decades ago. Most of the villagers in the mountains in Guizhou lived in uh, homes like this, thatch roofs, uh, uh, walls built from tree trunks, open doors, typically covered with fabric. These have been replaced by, in many cases, brick and mortar homes, often what you could call low-rise apartment buildings. And it's worth knowing that the construction of these homes uh, was itself part of a jobs creation program at the local level in literally hundreds of villages across southwest China. Here we've got a mix. On the right side, you see uh, uh, a young man from a young Kazakh man. The Kazakhs are one of the national minorities in Xinjiang. So we have a mix of stories here. Housing, a before look at housing in Guizhou and an after look of housing and public meeting space in Xinjiang. I hope that I'll have a chance to tell more about Xinjiang in a minute.
Oh, well, I wanted to just show a picture of our friend, Mr. Wang here. Did you want to, you haven't said much, Sid, so why don't you tell the story?
Oh, yeah, just his story was so inspiring because we asked, like, how has your parents or grandparents experienced the transition um, in China, in, you know, Guizhou? And he said, my parents or my grandparents, when I was a little boy, I had to feed the water buffalo. I've experienced myself, and as Dee mentioned, that he got a great education. He's got a master's degree. He's multilingual. He takes part in economic development projects. So just seeing the embodiment of what China has been able to do in areas of the country that are so mountainous, so remote, so hard to build infrastructure. And there's a saying in China, if you want to defeat poverty, first build a road. And they did. They built roads. They built long tunnels through mountains. They built these bridges that were some of the highest in the world, schools, hospitals, and they provided the infrastructure, and the people are being very prosperous. So just seeing those overall results is very inspiring to me. So yeah.
Just another couple pictures of the natural beauty there, the protected beauty, and the historical
Let me
sites.
just interject for 1 second as we look at these uh, inevitable tourist sites. The falls on the left, on the right, um, they aren't Niagara, but they're just as beautiful, and they're among the most dramatic waterfalls in China. Uh, I was cordially invited to go back and spend the summer in Guizhou. They're very much encouraging tourism, and if I were able to accept it, uh, uh, I would end up staying in one of these hospitality buildings on the left. Um, Guizhou is um, uh, known as the coolest province in what can be insufferably hot Chinese summers. So it's a little bit of a subtle invitation to people who, say teachers, who have the summer off. Uh, Check in with us and we'll help you find a way to spend a few weeks in Guizhou on vacation.
Whoa.
Okay, well, we experienced some of the amazing attributes of China even before we crossed over the border to China.
Well, landed on the land, yeah.
Before we landed, we're on an airplane, a jet that's part of a state-owned enterprise, and it was luxurious. Socialism can be luxurious, and I just really enjoyed that they had like bassinets, and I just felt very moved because
That folded out of the section in front of us, so out of the wall, unfolds the
yeah,
bassinet, so, and room to stand and move around and rock your baby. So yeah, that was phenomenal. So I was like, Sid's got to wear shades because the future's so bright in China.
yeah,
As is the high speed rail. Is pretty exciting too. This is our first ride on a high speed rail.
and it was smooth. It
Like Derek said earlier, yeah.
uh-huh. You could put a quarter on the windowsill and it would stand up as it got over to like 200 miles an hour or something. Amazing.
These are some friends we got to meet in where were we now? We were in okay, now we're in Shanghai. So we traveled around quite a bit. But yeah, Wave Media invited us for a luncheon, and so we got to share some of our fresh feedback off of our touring around Guizhou, and they've created some really creative and neat tours. So their website is there on the bottom, but I thought it was a great picture because it has all these amazing people in one room in Shanghai. So
I would like to add a point um, for uh, for anyone listening and watching us here. It's good to know that our hosts here at Wave Media, including Mimi, who's second on the left, encouraged us to extend their invitation to our friends who might want to organize delegations to go to China. You would be invited to visit Wave Media, where they, in addition to publishing YouTube webinars, as well as all different kinds of news commentary, they also do. They are cooperating with a tour agency that can manage group tours of this size or, different sizes in a very, very professional and enjoyable, even exciting way.
So now we're in Xinjiang. And the first day there, we had the opportunity to go to an energy expo, which I wasn't really into at all. I didn't think I really wanted to go, but I'm like, okay, when you're traveling, you have to be open to new experiences. And I had a great time. I met more than two women there, but these young professional women, they did speak English, so I was able to have actually, good conversation with them. And I was so curious about, like, are they satisfied with life? Are they happy? And they were just beaming, as you can see in the photos. And the Energy Expo, it wasn't just like oil and stuff. It was green. It was just really advanced uh, development that's happening. So it was a really kind of an exciting place to be on that first day. And then the picture on the right is a woman that we met. So here we have the young women on the left, loving, there's employment for them. They got great education and they're represented. And then this woman comes up to us in a museum and offers us grapes, and she's just bubbling from head to toe, and she's retired and she's just loving her life going around. Because I was like, what do you do now? And she's like, I travel. I mean, there's so much domestic travel within China. It's so accessible, it's affordable. The planes were all full, the trains were full, everything was full. And it's not like there's just one train a day. Like we saw there were 40 trains a day. So people are traveling, they have the disposable income and the time to enjoy life.
Yeah. I mean, retiring at 51, that's amazing.
Totally.
These two pictures were taken during my first trip to Xinjiang back in November of 2023. They're part of the answer, really, to the accusations of slavery and genocide that were promulgated by the Secretary of State back then. We were able to drive from Kashgar, the ancient city in southwest Xinjiang, to these cotton fields just as the cotton harvest was taking place. And so it's more than just a machine we're looking at here. We're looking at an answer to the lie about slavery in Xinjiang. I think that's all I need to say on that.
Thank you, Dee. Oh yeah. So there were many more pictures we could have posted, videos. Dancing was everywhere. This was all from the bazaar in Urumqi, the square in Kashgar, the market in Kashgar, Unity Square in Hotan. Morning and night. So in the mornings, you see, you see the people in the parks, a lot of women. But at night, everyone comes out. And this was a lot of the shots are just a random, like, Tuesday night. And, it's like a big party in this place. I do want to mention Unity Square in Hotan, because Hotan was one of the places that we went that felt really special, because it did feel like an alternate universe in a way of like so isolated. Like, I never had heard of this city. We were the only Westerners there that I'm pretty sure of that. Not a lot of people travel there, but lots of, like I said, domestic tourism is there, and the night markets are just full. And yeah, the little statue in the background, you can see in all the parks, all the public spaces, they honor their revolutionaries, they honor their history, they're proud of it. And so that's Chairman Mao with Uncle Kurban, who there's a neat story about him, and he's honored everywhere for making the journey to really want to meet Chairman Mao, because he was so grateful to be liberated. Like,
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah, and Brett, a friend of ours, and probably some of the people on this call know him. was mentioning that because we were talking about that there's statues of Mao and monuments to the revolution, and that they're huge and they're prominent, and that says something. That says something that, they honor their revolutionary history. And as far as, Western propaganda about Xinjiang and thinking that, there's some kind of, uh, you know, I don't know, what's the word? Uh,
Oppression.
Oppression.
or, mass incarceration or even genocide. We didn't see any evidence of that. If, people were dancing, they were open, they weren't afraid. There were plenty of men, um, women, and children of all ages. And if there was a lot of mass incarceration, you'd see, it would be noticeable because you'd see a lot of probably men that weren't there, but they were there, and people were dancing and they enjoyed dancing with us. I kept getting invited to dance, and so it was so much fun. And people would offer us food, and people were dressing colorfully and riding around on their electric scooters. It was very vibrant and it was very alive, and I didn't see any oppression at all. So when you hear these stories from Western media about oppression in Xinjiang, don't believe it. I just have to say.
Just remember these photos of people dancing. And the transportation, I mean, people often say the streets are so quiet in China because, all the vehicles are electric, and you still hear the bustling of people and the vibrancy, but it is true. All the buses here are electric. The taxis are all electric. And then every city, even in Xinjiang, they had a lot of the poverty alleviation too. So recently, um, they all have metro systems.
Yeah.
So it's like amazing. And then, yeah, these, like I said, the badass Uyghur women in their dresses, they own the streets and the sidewalks. You got to watch out. Lots of kids playing, and I came to China with another thing I wanted to really find out by going and seeing, and I was curious how children are, because I had heard that elders are living the best lives in China, and so I was curious, like, does the pressure of the competition in school and everything kind of take away from the childhood of kids? And so that is not true. Kids everywhere were just happy to connect with us and running and playing, and they take education seriously. So I think it's a really good balance of like a healthy childhood with a bright future, and a lot of intermingling between elders and children, and multi-generational. So, food everywhere, beautiful food. The markets, the bakery, this picture in the middle was just, we were walking to Hotan Square, and on the way there, I smelled fresh baked goods, and I hadn't smelled that in China. We were smelling all kinds of foods, but it's like, oh, a bakery. And we walk in and they just wanted to keep giving us things, and we tried to pay them and they're like, oh, no. It's just that generosity, and it's the beauty of the fruits and the best raisins in the world, the best cashews in the world that I've ever had. And Anlin introduced us to some amazing food and places to eat too. And just like that was a big part of like seeing how in a country like this, where food is accessible, like you can go out and have a nice meal and afford to eat well.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, Dee was gonna share a little bit about the mosques in Xinjiang.
This Idka Mosque is, I think, the largest mosque in China. It's one of dozens of mosques in Xinjiang, where a little over half the population are practicing Muslims. This particular mosque um, uh, is nearly filled with several thousand people. almost every day for midday and afternoon prayers. And it's notable that it has been recently repainted, reconditioned, modernized in the sense of uh, being made to look like new, even though it's been there for centuries. And when we were there, uh, a question arose for us: can we just go in? And the answer was yes. We went in and were able to observe. We didn't make uh, a pest of ourselves because these are people practicing their religion. There is a plaque outside this mosque uh, saying that the state council, equivalent of the national governing cabinet, had issued a grant back in the early 2000s. I think it was 2005 or six, uh, uh, funding the rehabilitation of the mosque, and this plaque was in both Mandarin as well as the Arabic script and English, uh, essentially saying that the grant for remodeling was part of an expression of official support for uh, for religious autonomy. I think that's all I have to say. It's worth saying that there are mosques like, not quite as big as this, but mosques, literally dozens of mosques across the cities of Xinjiang. Here you see some of them.
Yeah, here's another mosque, and just a few photos of the revitalization of these old cities and how the government helps to, bring heat into the mosques, things that just help living more comfortably, and just the tourism helping people to be able to live where they want to live and have access to everything there. So,
And public restrooms.
oh yeah.
I mean,
Sid found one. That's him on the right, finding just a public restroom again.
I mean, in the United States, sometimes you have to search to find a public restroom. And this is just part of China's recognition of infrastructure. And I just, think it's amazing and something we can learn so much from China.
Yeah, city planners could learn a lot in China.
Yeah.
This is Shanghai.
Yeah.
Unforgettable Shanghai.
Hard to think of socialism when you look, when we saw this, we took one of those boat tours, and it was like, wow, this is not what I thought it would be, but it's everything. It's kind of mind-blowing.
That bicycle down in the photo on the lower right isn't a plug-in. There are still literally thousands of people riding bicycles and electric bikes in Shanghai. They're very brave, although Anlin used a bicycle all the time we were in Shanghai. He's a little younger than I am, but it's great. But of course, it's worth knowing that electric cars and buses hog the street along, but there are bicycle lanes on all the major streets and avenues.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing about Shanghai is that there are city parks about every half mile along the major avenues, as well as very large parks scattered across the city. Shanghai is a city that's about twice the size of New York City.
Yeah, we took lots of park walks, and coming across a statue of Marx and Engels, just sitting there in the park, like, wow, this is fun, and lots of kids playing, and yeah, So lastly, we're going to talk about, Anlin's going to talk a little bit about the importance of why we went, and then kind of what we're up against and why we need to keep speaking out and for peace with China.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica, again for putting together these slides and leading this presentation here, and of course to Jessica, Sid, and Dee for braving this journey with us. But what we wanted to bring this the end of this talk back to us here in the United States, especially with some media developments the last month, because we weren't expecting this, but it turns out there was actually some kind of media reaction just to us going at all, just to us seeing the sites that we just shared with you all just now. Last month, well, you can see some of these headlines here. I'll just go through this. Basically, though, I want to first contextualize this with in 2024. This on the left-hand side, this headline under responsible statecraft, which is sometimes a pretty good resource. But basically, this headline is actually slightly misleading. It says it refers to in 2024, U.S. Congress passed a $1.6 billion budget. That amounts to around $400 million per year just on delivering anti-China propaganda. Now, this is slightly misleading because it says overseas, but actually the bill is not limited to just overseas operations. It's also, applicable to the U.S. as well. And I think that also helps contextualize a little bit of this media reaction, because I would suggest that that reaction was not actually so organic. I would suggest that perhaps the American people are not, on average, reacting to the fact that we visited Guizhou, Xinjiang, Shanghai, and then saw these things at all. I don't think that they would be so offended. But yet, some of these people really were. The first article that came out is the one on the upper right-hand side. This headline, How Zohran Mamdani's Democratic Socialists Sought Ties with Chinese Officials. Horrific stuff. It's accompanied with this scary-looking picture, well, scary to some, I guess, of Zohran Mamdani menacingly staring out into the distance with a monocolored red filled-in outline of China in the background, with some stars that sort of are aligned like on the way they are on the Chinese flag, and also a fist up for some reason. I'm not going to read this whole article here, but I thought there was a useful excerpt here. Basically, this piece was it's evidence that we have some kind of mole in the International Committee. That's a problem for us to work on. But basically, this person seems to have leaked our China Working Group notes to quote-unquote journalist. That name is down at the bottom of this person, Dee Kirsten Tatlow. This piece was published in Newsweek, but if you look her up, that name, the first result that comes up is not actually Newsweek, but in fact the Atlantic Council. So just for those who don't know, the Atlantic Council is one of the biggest think tanks and recipients of, it's one of the NGOs that receives the most amount of both defense contractor funding, like Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, things like that, but also U.S. government funding. So in fact, they're actually directly funded by the U.S. State Department and CIA to the tune of millions of dollars a year, and it's not actually possible to ascertain exactly the full degree of that funding that they receive. I would personally just posit that maybe some of that $1.6 billion has gone to Atlantic Council, though, because while Dee Kirsten Tatlow, this author of this article, this smear piece, described herself as a journalist for Newsweek, she is also currently, as it says at the bottom, a non-resident senior fellow in the Atlantic Council's Global China Hub, aka this NGO, which is funded by the big companies that stand to gain the most amount of funding from anti-China programming, anti-China weaponry, things of that sort. If you look at the excerpt from the piece that I included on the right, I highlighted what they're accusing us of this kind of alleged wrongdoing. The wrongdoing is having a slideshow at all about this. Okay, the thing that we're doing right now is what Newsweek and the Atlantic Council wants to accuse us of some kind of wrongdoing. And if you read through that whole excerpt, you'll notice that that some names are omitted, with the exception of mine. And there are other Chinese members who are active in the China Working Group, but but not that many. And I would suggest also that the inclusion of my name, I don't think it's because I'm especially important, but I think it's simply because they just want to highlight a scary sounding Chinese name.
Right.
And so, I mean, I can't really explain this otherwise. Like, I mean, I might be chair of the National Committee, but I promise you, this is not like some very powerful position, you know. And you know, the scary quote that they have from me is, I think one thing we would like to see is robust internationalism and anti-imperialism. Scary stuff. And so this then spawned other pieces too. So I didn't link all these there, but I included one on the left there from the illustrious journalism outlet, the New York Post. Democratic Socialist America linked to Chinese Communist Party causes internal strife. This isn't what I signed up for. Actually, the leaker who submitted that quote, that is literally what you signed up for. That is what we voted on at the 2021 National Convention. But nonetheless, after this, Rick Scott tweeted about it. The Federalist has published a piece. There's another piece in one of these other libertarian, like right-wing libertarian outlets too. I forget the name of it. And we talk about this just to indicate that actually going to China is a valuable thing in and of itself. Seeing the progress and bringing it back to comrades, friends, family here in the United States is an act of anti-imperialist solidarity in and of itself. Why else is the biggest empire in the world which is in free fall collapse in a number of fields with China, spending its time on just trying to make sure that making sure to demonize people who go to China at all. They even, I guess this is a try and intimidation tactic. Let me actually unblur my screen here, just because if you actually go to the articles, they include a screenshot of this background of my room here. I guess this is some sort of threatening gesture. This stuff isn't going to stop us. We're going to continue this work and continue advocating for positive, productive U.S.-China relations. And it's for that reason that I'm so grateful to be in community and solidarity with organizations like CODEPINK, helping to lead this fight to increase awareness about China, the need for peaceful relations between these two big powers, especially as we enter into an age of climate crisis. And so I just want to promote again that China Not Just Travel program that CODEPINK is partnering with, that is helping send people to. There's a lot of great programs there. If you look at the website, there are a number of different tour packages, like depending on what your interest might be. I think we'll be talking about that. We'll talk about that in other China's Not Our Enemy meetings in the future as well. But all that's to say, though, I just want to really encourage everyone to go visit China and see it for yourself and bring what you see back here to us here in the United States seeking social change too.
I would just like to add, as part of that invitation, that CODEPINK actually initiated my first delegation visit to China, and Friends of Socialist China, together with DSA, organized this most recent visit. And everyone here can be assured of an open-hearted invitation should you desire to go to China. And if you have any trouble getting information about it, just contact Megan or any of us, and we'll help you.
And I'd like to add, if that's okay.
Sure.
So Todd and I were in China in 2017, and we went, among all the main places, we went to Tibet. And I highly recommend that everybody go to Tibet as well. Although things may really really heat up there, depending upon what happens with the Dalai Lama over the next few years. But if you can go to Tibet.
And we practice Tibetan Buddhism too.
There's a really nice article about a recent visit to Tibet by one of the authors of China Changes Everything that you're encouraged to look at. Tibet has gone through some remarkable changes, even in the last decade, and is well worth a visit.
Definitely. I can't wait to go there. But it looks like we came to the end of the time, and we really had an intention of making time for questions. Megan, can you, do we need to end, or do we put some emails in there? Maybe people can email us if they have questions, or is there a minute or two for a question? Or
Yeah, it's completely up to you if you want to answer a couple questions or not. I know it's late for some people. I can always just include your contact information for people. But yeah.
Well, it's early for us, so we're open to stay on, but I know for many of you it's 3 hours later, so but thank you all again for coming. And the other main thing I just wanted to say is that the Chinese people do not want war with us. That was the clearest thing we got. And so we just really want to encourage peace with our friends in China.
I would like to add a comment to what Annette said about Buddhism. I discovered that Buddhism is reverently practiced by a very substantial percentage of the Chinese population across the country. I had a chance to visit northern Shanxi province, just north and west of Beijing, where there are temples and Buddha statues just everywhere. And of course, in both Beijing and Shanghai, there are remarkable Buddhist temples. And while visitors are very welcome to enter, we were completely mesmerized by the degree of reverence. People are lining up to fall on their knees and kowtow to these very, very large statues, of which there are typically 3 or 4 in these temples. And I think I said about 15% of the Chinese population today are practicing Buddhists, according to the information I received. And when you put that alongside of the open and encouraged practice of Islam among a significant fraction of the 55 national minorities, it's possible to see that freedom of religion is a very real thing and a vibrant thing in China.
Can I just say one quick thing about practicing? Because we were in Lhasa just for a few days, and people, so many thousands of people are practicing very fervently. We were in the Jokan Temple, and we were walking around the temple doing full prostrations with thousands of people. It was amazing. And this idea that there being Buddhist monks in robes are walking through the shopping malls with smiles on their faces, with mullah beads and cell phones, and we didn't see any homeless people, and we were just this whole thing with Tibet is just amazing. What the lies they're trying to tell about it.
Pedro has his hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I saw a comment in the chat, we all want peace, not war, and I wondered, how could I get an accurate read of China's stance towards Taiwan, which the U.S. monopolizes as, in a very aggressive kind of hostile kind of thing?
That's a very, very good and important question. I can tell you that I address it at some length in one of the chapters of Befriending China. Perhaps the most important thing is the official long view of the Beijing government. There is a level of confidence across China, and certainly at the leadership, that Taiwan, as a province of China, will always be a province of China, and no violence is necessary to make that happen. However, as we know, the United States has been fomenting the independence movement there and really providing all sorts of arms and weaponry to the Taiwan government, despite the fact that it does not represent the true majority of Taiwanese. There's always the possibility that a flare-up could happen, which would cause some kind of conflict, but it is definitely not what the government in Beijing wants, and it can be avoided. It's also true that the Kuomintang party, which together with a small Labor Party that's affiliated with the Communist Party of China, they together outnumber the pro-American leadership that is in power in Taiwan. But my findings from research and from quite a lot that's easily available, and you can read about it in my book, is that the long view is that the status quo can continue, and as things evolve over time, largely because of economic reality, where China is increasingly the largest economy in the world, the unification culturally already exists, and there is no the official policy from the Beijing government is one country, two systems, exactly the same as the policy in regard to Hong Kong.
Thank you.
So see Melanie has a hand up.
I just appreciate the presentation. I honeymooned in China back in 2011. And I'm sure a lot of things have changed since then, but I really enjoyed my time back in 2011. My question is, just kind of, how we have just so many taxes, and we have also the cost of insurance to insure like our car and our house here in the United States. And I'm just kind of curious if there was any conversations with locals around like if that system has been adopted there to where they're having to insure their cars and their homes, and if it's affordable, or just kind of like the taxing that goes on. And also just curious about healthcare. Are they taxing the millionaires and billionaires to afford that free healthcare? Or you said it's not all the way free. So maybe if someone can maybe elaborate on what the cost or tax that they have to cover that.
It's possible to say that part of the policy of common prosperity is something that you could call leveling. It's worth acknowledging that there are actually more billionaires in China than there are in the United States. And part of the mixed economy policy of the government, it has been to encourage private investment and and yet there's plenty of taxation of private investment. But the tax on working class and what you could call lower middle class people is substantially less than here. And the experience of the targeted poverty alleviation program kind of illustrates what the national policy is. While it's okay for rich people to participate in society, they're expected to contribute proportionally to the leveling of the society, that is, to the elimination of extreme poverty and to the maintenance of a generous social wage. A social wage is the mix of what you might call entitlements that everyone in China gets, whether it's free education from pre-kindergarten through as far as you can go in graduate school, whether it's health care for all, whether it's subsidized housing. It's worth knowing, for example, that a very high percentage of Chinese people own their homes. I think the number, correct me on this, Anlin, if you can, is about 85%, far higher than here. There is no homelessness in China. There are migrant workers whose home remains in a village where they don't live, and they have migrated to cities where aggressive urban development is happening. And they work for a wage, and their housing conditions are not great. But the tax policy is a leveling policy that still encourages private business to get rich. It's worth also mentioning that a little over half the economy is private business, and just under half is state-owned enterprises.
Let's
And I think,
do sorry, Sid, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, like, yeah, that people can retire so early is another social wage. And I think, yes, there are capitalists, there's rich people in China, but it's not like the United States where the capitalist class dominates the government. The
Quite the
capitalist
contrary.
class does not dominate the government in China. It is subservient to the government and to the people. So they do walk this fine line of trying to attract capital, have development because they need to improve the social production. But I think that I mean, if you just look at the overall picture from where they were in 1949 to where they are now, I think it's the most remarkable achievement. And so sometimes if people have like questions that go down into the weeds, I can research that, but I encourage people to look at the overall picture and the fact that the government has delivered for the people. You have material, concrete results. Whereas in this country, a lot of people, the polls say that they want a Green New Deal, Medicare for all, but the polls overwhelmingly say that, but we never get it. And the elections are dominated by wealthy contributors and so forth. So as far as, delivering for the people, there's just no comparison. China has done it, and they've kept the capitalist class subordinate to the overall goals of development for the people.
All right, let's do one last question from Kim, and then we can wrap up. Kim?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say that if you go to Tibet or Xinjiang, just make sure that you also visit the very new museum in Tibet, which gives you an idea of the history. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the Buddhism that's practiced in China is called Mahindrama, and the type of Buddhism that's practiced in Southeast Asia is called Theravada. And a lot of Chinese that practice Buddhism, at least among the overseas Chinese that I know of, from my family in Malaysia, was the fact that there's a mixture of Buddhism with Taoism and ancestral worship, right? So that the Theravada sect is like primarily big in Thailand, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, that kind of places. And then those Buddhist monks that have the walk of peace from Texas to Washington, D.C. are from the Theravada sect, which is like the Thai, Myanmar kind of background kind of thing. So I just kind of want to clarify a little bit on Buddhism.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kim.
So thank everybody for a great presentation. So Megan, is there any update on our trip, on the people who are going in the next batch to Red China or Iconic China? Maybe we'll have another meeting soon. Is that possible?
Yes, I just sent an email out yesterday if you received it. I'm trying to get everybody on WeChat into a group message.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
So hopefully we'll have the next steps coming soon. And thank you. Oh my gosh, this was an incredible presentation. You covered so much in such a short time. And I really appreciate it. Definitely one of my favorite China report backs that we've had. So thank you. And thanks everybody for coming and for the great questions. And yeah, just once again, if you are interested in going to China with some like-minded people, some comrades, I put the Google form in the chat to fill out and you'll receive information on that. We have trips planned starting in May, July, and then in September. So we're going to keep it going as long as there's interest. So thank you.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
thank you very much, Megan, for all you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy Lunar New Year.
新年快乐。
新年快乐。